Thank you so much for joining us, Congressman. What the hell's going on with this? I'm the left-wing, the response to Charlie Kirk's savage murder by a leftist with a trans furry boyfriend who, according to all of his family members, was a left-wing radical who hated Charlie Kirk, hated Donald Trump, hated free speech. The response to that has been more left-wing terrorism. There hasn't been an apology from Jimmy Kimmel. There hasn't been a moment of like Democrats reconciling and saying, hold on, like this is a major problem in our party. There's been no accepting of even the premise that this is a left-wing problem. That yes, here we have a little chart. I'm just going to keep going to this chart. Yes, you can point to some instances of violence on the right, but it's like 1 out of every 100 for violence versus the left. So yes, you're going to have to deal with the big problem first before you deal with the little problems. There's been no moment on the left where this has happened, Congressman. And that's the thing that bothers me the very most is how can you unify with people who want you dead? How can you unify over a lie? You cannot. The floor is yours.
Yeah, we did a post on Twitter that took a picture of Charlie Kirk's funeral, and this is how Republicans react to having one of their people murdered, and then a picture of the reaction from the left in the George Floyd riots where they're destroying and burning entire cities down, and their justification is justice for George Floyd. It is a very different reaction that Republicans have to tragedy than the left has to tragedy, and it goes back years. I mean, I can remember when I first got elected to Congress, President Trump was president in his first term, but we lost the House. Nancy Pelosi was speaker, and going through all of the impeachment BS that we had to go through, the Russia hoax, which we all know was completely made up by the left, made up by the deep state, all of that. And Nancy Pelosi going on TV, I remember it vividly, going on TV and calling Republican members of Congress, like myself, Democratic or terrorists, domestic terrorists. That's what she said. And I think the exact quote was, Republican members of Congress are domestic terrorists. So you have the biggest, highest leaders of their party calling people like me who've served my country, who've actually fought for my country overseas and actually fought against terrorism.
Yes.
Domestic terrorists. And so that nomenclature, these young people hear it, like the shooter that murdered our friend Charlie Kirk. They hear these things and they believe these things and they think, oh, I have to act and violence is okay. And these calls to violence, I mean, you've heard it again and again and again, and words are powerful. And when you hear people like AOC and Ilhan Omar and all these other people in the far progressive left justify violence, it emboldens the people on the left. And you're right, that graph is very telling. The picture I posted on Twitter is very telling. The left's reaction right now, because they lost the election, Trump is crushing it. He's doing what the American people want him to do. More Americans are getting behind President Trump's agenda since the election because they're seeing now our streets are safer and our cities are safer and illegals are getting it out of our country and people aren't dying of fentanyl overdoses because we're stopping the fentanyl from coming into our country. All of these things that people in the middle of our country are realizing that, wow, these policies are actually great. So their only reaction to that is to try to use violence to scare people and incite fear. And it's not going to happen. And I will say it's probably going to continue for a period of time. But more and more of these people that either get responded to with violence in defending ourselves, like I'm sure the ICE shooting today, the reports I saw says he took his own life. So these are the cowards that we're dealing with that just want to inflict violence on people and then end their own lives. But I think you're seeing the left's desperation of this is the only option we have because Trump is winning, Republicans are winning, the policies are winning, and the country's getting to a better place, and they don't know what else to do other than to resort to violence.
We have heard that now, reportedly, from Human Events, that this individual that shot up the ICE facility had a bunch of anti-ICE sentiments, left-wing coded, a young man who has once again gone out as a sniper and attempted to take the lives of federal officers and agents. This comes just hours after Tim Walz and Gavin Newsom, two men that want to be president, defamed and slandered and painted a target on the back of federal agents by calling them Gestapo, by calling them authoritarian tyrants.
Yep.
At what point, again, this is incitement. At that level of demonization of law enforcement is incitement. And I guess it's just carried, I guess members of Congress that serve with you can go punch ICE agents and literally fight ICE agents and nothing will happen to them, like LaMonica McIver.
Yeah, we can't even get him removed from Congress, for crying out loud. I mean, the votes come, we have, 3 or 4 people on our side that vote with the Democrats, and you can't even remove these people off committees. It's insane.
So first off, Republicans have to get stronger on this. So I got a couple of questions, but one, how did Republicans actually understand what time it is? There's plenty of people going there wanting, to Charlie Kirk's memorial. He's there's plenty of people there, and I know a lot of them, and they're good, and they have good hearts. But do they have the will to actually solve the problem that got Charlie Kirk killed?
That's the challenge that faces us. We have probably 160 to 180 strong conservative members of Congress, but we need 218 people to get anything passed. And you have a lot of Republicans that are in Democrat districts that are afraid of doing anything that would remotely compromise their ability to win re-election. And that is not the way you represent people. If you're moving to the left, you're making the conservatives and the Republicans that voted for you upset, because why am I voting for a Republican who's going to vote like and act like a Democrat? And I've seen it in Florida where people have moved to the center and they've lost their primaries. For some reason, it's not happening across the country. And the speaker and our leadership is so deathly afraid of putting 7 to 10 members of Congress in a tough position on votes that are conservative votes, because they claim that they're going to lose their re-elections. And I would rather pass all this great conservative policy, do the things that the president wants us to do, because I think more and more people will come out and support for those policies, like we've seen all across the country. I mean, the president won every swing state in this last election. It's unheard of that would happen. And I think this movement is going to continue.
So you have served in war zones. Here's photos of you in Iraq. You have served in counterinsurgency and you fought actual terrorist cells. What needs to be done here against domestic terrorists who have yet again this morning terrorized federal agents, attacked the federal government, shot at an ICE facility with the intention to kill, and as far as we know right now, reportedly have taken the lives of 3 individuals at this ICE facility? What must happen now?
Well, I think justice has to happen, but it has to happen fast. I mean, people are sick and tired of somebody trying to assassinate somebody, or this shooter that killed our friend Charlie Kirk, and it'll be a year or 2 years before it even gets before a judge. That's frustrating to people when justice takes that long to happen. So in this particular incident, these attacks on ICE agents, I mean, the law's already pretty clear. If you attempt to murder a law enforcement officer, you can get capital punishment for that. And this occurred in Texas. I'm sure they have the capital penalty like we do in Florida. And the trial should happen quick. Justice should be served. And maybe that would be a deterrent to some of these other people. But here's the other piece of this too, is the FBI and the DOJ need to do a deep dive into this person's network. Because obviously this is a group of people, like you mentioned that the last attack on this facility was a group of Antifa people. I can guarantee you they're somehow linked into this. So making this a conspiracy to kill law enforcement officers and being able to charge all of these people for these different crimes and put away the network that is supporting these type of activities, I think will go a really, really long way.
Wouldn't terrorism have different courts? I'm no lawyer, but wouldn't there be a swifter or potential military process where you could have different courts if you are actively committing in an organized fashion terrorism acts against the U.S. federal government and its law enforcement agents?
If it happened on a military base, you could go through the UCMJ. But if it happens in this incident, the state laws would apply, and then federal laws would apply, and they could get charged in both jurisdictions. They could get charged in the state court and charged in the federal court. Now, state courts typically move a lot faster than the federal courts do, but there's nothing that would allow some type of terrorist court specific to that unless it happened on a military base. Now, overseas, the bad guys that we prosecuted, obviously a totally different scenario because that happened overseas. But the stuff that we're seeing here has to be prosecuted in the state courts and or federal courts, depending on the crimes that were committed.
Even if they're part of a terrorist organization that's been designated as Antifa as a designated domestic terrorist organization.
Yeah, but go after them under the conspiracy charges in the federal law. I mean, those have huge penalties. You can put these people away for a really long time. And I think people think they can hide behind a keyboard and inciting violence, hide behind a keyboard and organizing these type of attacks on law enforcement officials. You start putting those people in handcuffs under a conspiracy to kill law enforcement officers charges. And I think that will go a long way to, one, deter people from that type of activity, and two, put bad people in prison where they belong.
Final comment and question to you, Congressman, about Jimmy Kimmel and his non-apology last night. Did that satisfy you and your righteous indignation for the Kirk family?
No, of course it didn't. He didn't apologize, and then he goes back to attacking the FCC and attacking Trump and all of that. What's crazy is you have 3 times more followers on Twitter than this guy has that watches his show. So that's the justice in that situation. Is people don't want to listen to that. People don't want to watch that except the far left lunatics that support him. And I did read that Nexstar and some of these other cable companies are not going to continue to carry him, which is great. So he's not going to have even that reach that he currently has on the late night show. Look, it's a balance protecting free speech, but obviously the things that he is saying should not allow him to be able to be on a cable network to say that type of stuff. And what's interesting, it has nothing to do about free speech in the Kimmel incident. It has nothing to do with free speech.
Not on a cable network. He's on a federally licensed broadcast network, terrestrial broadcast, that is paid for by you and me and the taxpayers lavishly. Yeah. So like on a cable network, you'd have no grounds, but this is an FCC licensure. You have porn laws, you have swearing laws, you have a bunch of decency laws, you have violence laws. You must be able to broadcast in the public interest. I mean, I want to make sure that everybody understands this is not like an MSNBC host. This is not a Fox News host. You have to, the differences between ABC, NBC, and CBS are profound when it comes to FCC licensures.
Yep,
and whenever you get in federal dollars, Congressman, there are going to be strings attached. And the strings are you can't lie in a non-joke. It's not like he was telling a joke. He was giving a news read. You can't lie about the motive of a murder when federal authorities are saying this. You're going to incite more violence. And now we've seen it happen.
Yep, you're absolutely right.
Forgive my interruption. This has made my blood boil. It's made my blood boil. Nobody took away Jimmy Kimmel's free speech. Nobody stopped him from like tweeting. He didn't get banned from all social media like Donald Trump. He didn't get ripped down from YouTube like we learned yesterday. So many different creators did. He didn't get like even his show canceled. He could have stood on the street corner and yelled. He could have tweeted. He could have posted. He should have done anything. He could have gone on any show he wanted to. Jimmy Kimmel's speech was never under threat ever. He got a penalty. He got put in timeout for being a dick and for lying. And that's a totally fundamentally different thing. Forgive me, but I just...
You're good. I agree with you.
Our show was a major factor in fighting back against this, and I'm frustrated at not yourself, but other weak Republicans that like ran to Jimmy Kimmel's defense. It makes me very angry.
Well, keep fighting. I'm with you.
Yeah. We know you are, Congressman. That's why we're a massive fan of yours. Obviously, Charlie's team also not happy about this whole Jimmy Kimmel non-apology. Everybody needs to follow the great congressman right here. He has 120,000 subscribers here on X. Make sure that you're fighting with the people who are fighting for us. Godspeed, Congressman. Keep fighting. If we just had like 100 more of you, not into human cloning, but if we just had 100 more of you, we'd be set.
I need 217 friends in Congress. We could get a lot of great stuff done.
Thank you, Congressman.
All right, see you.